What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. We are live. It is 10 p.m. British summertime, BST, and breaking news in the last couple of minutes, just seconds, mere seconds before I went live. The bids are in. At least one of them, particularly the one from Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, is indeed in. The Qatari bid has just got in the last couple of seconds. I was going to start the stream off by doing this is kind of the how things are playing out today. Here's what we know, here's what we don't know, some updates when it comes to the minority bids not having this fixed deadline of 10 p.m. But in the last, mere second, you couldn't have timed it any better. The bid has indeed gone in. So this is going to be a really fun stream. Whilst these takeover streams have been somewhat chaotic over the last however long we've been doing them, it feels months now, doesn't it? It feels like a year we've been doing them. We're going to be live, or certainly I am, for at least an hour. I'm going to be trying to keep as up to date as I can with all of this takeover news, bringing it to you, reacting to it in real time. I want to get your thoughts up on the screen. We're going to have some fun this evening. Late night settings. It's almost like a late night view. Remember that show? But enough of that. I digress. Let's get straight into the breaking news in the last couple of seconds. This comes from multiple reporters, multiple outlets. First, from Matt Lawton from The Times. He is reporting the Qatari bid for Manchester United is in. It's just over £5 billion, which is a world record fee, with a pledge to remove all debt and make considerable investment into the club's infrastructure. Now, these are going to turn into full-blown articles with a lot more information involved in them. So as I mentioned, whilst we're live, we're going to go through it in real time. We're going to react to it in real time. We're going to try and digest this in real time, as well as all of the chaos that inevitably will surround it. And remember, the last time I did one of these streams, the last time I did one of these shows whereby bids were coming in, I did like an hour and 45 minutes. I think it was with KG and DJ at the time. And then afterwards, we finished up and they went, oh, by the way, those bids didn't even go in. So anything is possible this evening. So strap in. Let's have some fun. This is the Friday night fun you're looking for. Forget going out. Let's talk about takeover stuff. As I mentioned, it's not only Matt Lawton from The Times, it's also Mike Keegan from the Daily Mail as well. He is just tweeted in the last couple of seconds saying, quotes, breaking. Qatar bid is in, just over £5 billion. Offer includes plan to inject significant amount of additional capital and infrastructure investment, would remove all debt. Now over to the owners. New article, as I mentioned, from him is coming up shortly. We'll read that when it does come out. Now, what is quite interesting about this, before these bids went in and we were waiting, it's actually been on the takeover front fairly quiet today. I think if you were like me, you've probably been just sort of refreshing the timeline, clicking on all of these journalists' Twitter pages going, are they going to say anything? Are they going to say anything? What's going to happen? What are they going to say? Is anything going to happen? And it was fairly quiet. There was a lot of speculatory articles being written. There was a lot of speculation about the bid is expected today, but there was no confirmation until like 3 minutes ago that a bid has indeed gone in. Now, that's just from Sheikh Jassim and the 9-2 Foundation. We know that his bid is in, a world record fee, £5 billion. It must be said, still significantly shorter than the asking price that the Glazers are looking for. And reportedly, this is third and final bids. So we are entering territory now whereby it's put up or shut up when it comes to the Glazers. I think Kaveh Solokov put it pretty bluntly when he was on Sky Sports News earlier today. He said it's a take it or leave it offer from Sheikh Jassim for Manchester United. Now, the bid will go in around 10 p.m. this evening, but it's take it or leave it settings. He didn't say settings. I can't imagine he'd say that on Sky Sports News. But the interesting thing with this is that lots of people have been talking about this 10 p.m. deadline, 10 p.m., third and final round, 10 p.m., etc., etc., etc. Well, that 10 p.m. third round deadline is only really for two parties today, that being Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe / Ineos, because in actuality, this 10 p.m. deadline is only for the people that want to purchase the majority or all of United. The minority investors don't have to adhere to this 10 p.m. deadline. This is a really fascinating bit of information that was tweeted out by Ben Jacobs around 40 minutes or so ago. He said, quotes, understand there is not a deadline for the minority investor or financing groups involved in Manchester United's sale process. The 10 p.m. deadline only applies to Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Groups like Carlisle have been invited to bid again, but with no fixed deadline. This is the clearest indication yet that Sheikh Jassim and Ratcliffe are the primary contenders, with a minority sale far less likely. Now, I kind of I don't know if I necessarily agree with what he's saying with that part there, where he's saying, oh, this is an indication that it's full sale. That's the most likely scenario. I looked at it and read that and said, well, that's to me an indication that the goalposts are being moved once again. This whole third and final round thing could be bullshit in reality, because once again, if it's not the amount of money that the Glazers are looking for, if it's not that $7 billion, £6 billion asking price that they're looking for, we might still, even though it was a third and final round, we could still get another round. And these minority people, they're adhering to a different timeline, a different time schedule. So if these totality offers, i.e. Sheikh Jassim, he wants everything, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he wants the majority. If that's not up to snuff, then they then still got plenty of time to go to these minority investors and investment groups and say, let's negotiate about those offers. So if you were hoping that this was going to be the beginning of the end in terms of the takeover process tonight, I don't know, to be honest with you. So that's certainly an interesting part of it as well. But as I said, it's certainly all going off. So I'm going to try and get to this as quickly as I can, as fast as I can, and react to it as best as I can. As I mentioned, it's been reported by everyone now. Ben Jacobs as well has just tweeted in the last couple of minutes saying Sheikh Jassim has now placed his final offer and it's north. So he's saying it's more than £5 billion. Now, again, that's quite interesting because that's already being disputed. Some people saying it's 5 billion on the nose, on the dot. Ben Jacobs is saying it's north of 5 billion, which again would be closer to what the Glazers are looking for, but still considerably short. He has said it's improved, but not reckless. Sheikh Jassim's proposal also includes a plan to invest a further significant amount of additional capital and infrastructure investment into the club directly, which is quite interesting too, because maybe, just maybe, his bid is suggesting, look, here's over £5 billion to you, to the owners, to purchase this all. But in actuality, my bid is worth more than this because I'm actually going to be investing £1 billion into a stadium. I'm going to be investing £1 billion into a training ground. I'm going to be investing near £1 billion into the infrastructure surrounding United, the academy, the women's team, all, etc., etc., etc. We can go on to the things that need investment at Manchester United. So it could be a case of actually, in totality, his bid is way more than £5 billion. Certainly it is. He also has said the 9-2 Foundation, which is Sheikh Jassim's operation for purchasing this, continue to believe that the Qatari bid, which is for 100% of the organization, the club, and debt-free, is the best for the club, the fans, and the community. Simon Stone also reporting what everyone else has reported in the last couple of minutes, saying Sheikh Jassim's final bid for Manchester United has been submitted. Fabrizio Romano saying, hello guys. I'm getting better, I feel like, at the Fabrizio Romano impression. I'm not at the level of Flex and KG when it comes to those kind of impressions, but he has tweeted saying Sheikh Jassim has submitted his final bid for Manchester United. In addition to figure to buy the club, Qatari's proposal also includes a plan to invest a further significant amount of additional capital, infrastructure investment into the club directly. Clearly, you get the impression reading all of these reports that pretty much are exactly word for word the same verbatim, that clearly Sheikh Jassim's representatives, the 9-2 Foundation, have put the bid in and then let all of these people know, whether it's Mike Keegan, whether it's Matt Lawton, whether it's Fabrizio Romano, whether it's whoever. In addition to offering a figure to buy the club, as I mentioned, we've spoken about that. Jamie Jackson has also just said the view from Sheikh Jassim is that the Glazers should now decide who should buy Manchester United. So that kind of goes back into what was being reported earlier today as well from Kaveh Solokol, which was essentially this was a take it or leave it offer. This is my final offer. This is how much I'm offering you. This is how much I'm willing to invest in the club. Take it or leave it. So we're at the precipice now of saying, right, the ball is in your court. Joel, Avram, and the Glazer siblings. Sheikh Jassim, his foundation said, here's the money. It's not everything you wanted because we want to play hardball and you're playing hardball with us, but you said third and final rounds. So do you really truly believe it's third and final round? Because if it's not, then we might have a problem on our hands. But as I mentioned, according to the tweet that's been put out there by Jamie Jackson, they're saying that the Qatari bid, certainly the view from Sheikh Jassim is that the Glazers should now decide who indeed does buy Manchester United, which again is very, very interesting as well. And I think we're kind of up to date with that. As I mentioned, this is going to be a wild show, guys, because this is going to be going on and on and on again. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the chat. We'll get your super chats and comments as well up on the screen. Super chat from Amanor says, Owen, I feel Qatari today. Screw Sir Jim Glazer. Well, it must be said, at the time of being live now, which is 10:10 British summertime here in the UK, we haven't had any confirmation as to the bid or a bid going in from Sir Jim Ratcliffe or Ineos. But at the same time, that's not to say the bid hasn't gone in. The bid could just be, speaking from experience now, having done this very stream a couple of times, this could just be the case whereby in maybe 10 minutes time, it's reported that the bid went in. Last time, Sir Jim and Ineos's bid went in before the Qatari bid. There's been no issues when it comes to deadlines. There's been no issues when it comes to extensions or anything. This time, of course, last time there was all of this confusion going on about when the bid could actually go in, an extension, no extension, what have you. But if you are just joining us again, the Qatari bid from Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani is indeed in. It's just over £5 billion with a pledge to remove all debt and make considerable investment into the club's infrastructure. That is the latest news. As I mentioned, we'll keep an eye on what's being put out there, what's being reported. We're going to be live for the next hour or so. And certainly, again, this is going to be really, really interesting when it comes to the developments, not only from the reaction from the club, the reaction from the fans, but also once we get any information about Sir Jim Ratcliffe or his bid, because there have been conflicting reports, haven't there, this week about what his bid is actually going to consist of. I mean, previously it had been that he was just looking to buy out the Glazers' percentage. He was looking to buy the majority share of Manchester United, the controlling share, which the Glazers own, which is around 65%, I think it is, something like that. And everything else was essentially going to remain the same. The debt wasn't going to be reduced, and the rest of the stakeholders, shareholders in the company, were going to stay as is. We then had reports this week suggesting that maybe he was still going to buy the majority of the majority share from the Glazers, but the Glazers could be staying around, and that might be how he decides to persuade the Glazers to accept his offer over the Qatari offer, which again is very interesting because with this deadline now have passed, maybe this is why their bid is going in later than the Qatari bid, is because that's a bit more of a complex bid to put together. And it's certainly less straightforward than the Qatari bid, which is just, here's the money. We want everything. We want to wipe the debt. That's it. Done. So again, that's very interesting as well. Now, as far as when it comes to all of the build up to this, we'll get into that in just a second, but I do want to get some of your comments up on the screen. We've got nearly 1,000 people watching, so be sure to smash a like on the like button as well. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We're already at nearly 150 likes. So with 1,000 people watching, I say straight away, I mean, this could be a very historic day for United. This could be the beginning of the end when it comes to the Glazer stewardship. If that's not worth a like, I don't know what is, certainly. So let's get some of your comments up on the screen as well. Raminzo said, what was the Qatar bid? We just spoke about that just a second ago. I'm sure you can find it on social media, but we will recap things as it goes along this evening, because as I mentioned, there's so much going on. See what some of our members are saying. Let's get some members chat. PK says, look at the Romano tweet. We have checked that out as well. Magdalena says, thing is, the Glazers don't care what's best for the club. Well, this has never been about what's best for the club. That's we can put that to one side, don't we? I know that Sheikh Jassim's sort of briefing this evening has suggested that it's best for the club, the fans, the community, etc. The Glazers could give two shits about what's the best for the fans or the community or anything like that. They want what they perceive to be the best for them. And I think the difficult thing is that it's difficult to get in their mind what they perceive to be the best for them, because any logical person would think you would take the money up front, you would go. If someone offers you, and again, world record amount, over £5 billion for Manchester United. Yes, it has to be divided up by all of the siblings, but still, we're talking a significant amount of money, plus forging a business relationship for the future. Make no mistake about that as well. The Glazers have multiple other interests and companies in their portfolio, and it's wouldn't be a bad thing for them into the future to have these Qatari links if they wish to open up hotels or shopping centers or what have you in Doha, etc. So that could be very profitable for them for the future. So you and I might sit here and say, hey, that would be that's good. That would be good business, would it not? But to them, what's good business? Is good business to them having the money up front, or is it also having the having money, from someone like Sir Jim Ratcliffe, not having full control, but having continuous source of income as well? That's quite interesting. Amanor says, you missed my super chat. I did not. I read it out. It said, Owen, I feel Qatari today. Screw Sir Jim Glazer. I did pick that one out. It's also now, again, this is a chaotic stream. This is what we've come for this evening. Ben Jacobs is reporting that Sir Jim Ratcliffe / Ineos's final offer has now been placed. That has been breaking in the last 30 seconds. No details on what the bid consists of. We will keep you up to date once that information is coming through. But now both bids are in. Yes, third and final bids from both Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani and also Sir Jim Ratcliffe under the Ineos umbrella has indeed come in for Manchester United. We know that, again, the Qatari bid has landed. It's over £5 billion. It would clear all historic debt, wipe it clean. I'm assuming take the club into a private organization, take it off the stock exchange. Sheikh Jassim is confident his offer will be the biggest, but Sir Jim's offer is in. But what it consists of, we don't know. So stay tuned for that, because as that information comes in, we'll let you know. But going back to what I was saying when it comes to the Glazers too, my concern with all of this is they actually have several avenues they can go down. They can go down the avenue, like I said, of the Sheikh Jassim Qatar route, which is money up front, also having business relationships for the future with all of their other organizations. They've got the Sir Jim one, which might not be as much money up front, and it might be surrendering majority of control, but they still, according to reports previously this week, again, we don't know what this current bid consists of, but they still could be in fairly decent shape in terms of actually having involvement in United and still taking money out the club, which to me is scandalous. How you can say, I want to put the Manchester back into Manchester United. I want to have a fan-centric approach to ownership, and I want to be I want to it's got to be based in the roots and the history of the Northwest and keep the Glazers around. I think that is absolutely scandalous. But again, those were reports, so we'll wait until we get any details on that. That's interesting. And the other big news broken by Ben Jacobs earlier this evening was that this 10 p.m. deadline that we're here discussing live right now is only for these bids that want to take full ownership of United, or at least controlling ownership of United. The other interested parties that are looking for a minority investment, looking to help finance the Glazers to stick around, invest in the club for a small percentage of the organization, they don't have to adhere to this 10 p.m. deadline. So this takeover process could go on for longer than maybe we first thought, which is quite funny and ironic when you think about it, because you remember those reports when this whole thing first started, when first bids went in, which was when? February? I think it was something like that. First bids went in. It might have even been January when first bids went in. I forget. And they were saying, yeah, people are optimistic, can be wrapped up by Easter. Easter's come and gone. We've had our Easter eggs. We've had our fish and all this kind of stuff. We're talking about a May bank holiday this weekend, and it's still not done. So Easter, and the real question now is, we're so close to the end of the season. We're so close to the summer transfer window. This will, no doubt about it, irrespective of who purchases United, whether it's Sheikh Jassim, whether it's Sir Jim Ratcliffe, whether the Glazers stay, whether it's whoever, this is going to have a knock-on effect this summer. Whether it be positive or negative, there has to be delays and there has to be uncertainty. There was a report from The Independent just a few hours ago saying that Erik ten Hag and his staff are going forward with plans for the summer, but ultimately they're working under the assumption of, we don't know how much money we truly have to spend. We don't know. We have no idea. That's something they have to contend with at the moment too. So again, very interesting. Once again, still no details on what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's final offer does consist of. Remember, if you are just joining us, these are third and final bids as well. This is the third and final round. Seemingly, these offers are the final offers that are going to be put in for total control of United, for total ownership of the club. And the Glazers are looking for $7 billion, £6 billion, and Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, which is the highest, the highest one. And I think I'd be stunned if Sir Jim Ratcliffe's one is higher than that. That still is very, very shy of what the Glazers are looking for. So again, that's very interesting too. Everyone is again saying that. Everyone is reporting that the third and final bid from Sir Jim Ratcliffe is in. Fabrizio Romano has just tweeted that. James Ducker from The Telegraph has also just reported that too. But at the same time, Still no details as to what that is. If we do get any more details than that, of course, we'll let you know as indeed it comes in. But how are we all feeling? How are we all feeling at the moment? Because 20 minutes in and it's already, this whole takeover thing once again has just exploded into life after a day of speculation, after a day of waiting to see what's happened. The bids indeed are in by the deadline, by the time. So no extension drama, no waiting, no doing the stream. And then, oh, by the way, they're not in. Fax machine, emails, are they in the junk folder? None of that again. But we are still waiting to see again what the reaction is. Palmerius is big up. Palmerius, one of our long-term members, has gifted, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, Booker T, 5 gifted memberships. The United View Members Club is always growing. And we actually put a post on the community tab the other day asking the UV members, because there's so many of them right now. There's so many. It's the community, the family is growing. We said, what emojis do you want to see? Because there is a plethora of emojis, but there can be more. Good is not good enough in the emoji world of the UV Members Club. And we asked you, which emojis do you want to see? And you've already responded astronomically. I've seen people say they want a Kenny emoji, they want a judge emoji, they want a goalpost emoji for when you're saying, hey, you're moving the goalpost. I like that. What else did people say? They wanted I think they said they wanted a specific DJ emoji, I think, as well. That was very good. So yes, that was a lot of fun as well. Let's see who got gifted these memberships as well. So United Supporter was gifted a membership by Palmerius. United for Life was gifted a membership by Palmerius. Waswa was gifted a membership by Palmerius. And Marty MUFC was also gifted a membership as well. Amanor says, I want a disreflect emoji. That's very good. That's very good. D. Luffy says, Marcel emoji. There's already quite a few. I'm sure there can always be more. Marcel... this has just come to me now, actually. Marcel, because he lives outside of time and he doesn't believe in time. Marcel in the TARDIS. Now, this could be something really special. Marcel in the TARDIS or some kind of time machine. Marcel in a DeLorean, Back to the Future settings. I think we might be onto something. I think we might be onto something with that one. That could be very, very interesting. That Marcel in the TARDIS. Marcel's Rolex, Palmerius said as well. Yes, very, very interested. Let's get some more information as it's coming through. As I mentioned, hopefully we're going to get some more information on Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos's bid for Manchester United. As Simon Stone is just reporting, this is kind of what Ben Jacobs had put out there earlier. The deadline for this 10 p.m. get your third and final bids in did not apply to the minority investment possible investment people such as Carlisle and Elliott, who only want a minority stake. It's not entirely clear why, but Simon Stone is guessing if they go down that route, it would be an easier deal for the Glazer family to compete. It is odd. I mean, why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that this deadline, this 10 p.m. deadline, was only for Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Obviously, they're the two that want either the entirety or the controlling stake in United. But why do you think that is? Is that a case? Does that show the Glazers' intent to, no, we really do want to sell the entirety of the club? Or is that maybe it does suggest that that would be the avenue they're most interested in exploring? And as Simon Stone says, maybe the other part of it they can do fairly quickly. I mean, what do you think with that? That's quite interesting too. But my concern is with that, it just feels like that could extend this whole process even longer. Now, a bit more information here, a bit more information from Ben Jacobs about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's offer. He has said Sir Jim Ratcliffe's offer for Manchester United is more flexible than Sheikh Jassim in terms of offer structures, but he still wants control. If Joel and Avram Glazer stay at the club, they won't do so with Class B voting power. So that's quite interesting, but also vague. At the same time, suggesting that the offer is more flexible than Sheikh Jassim in terms of offer structures, which, of course, Sheikh Jassim's is, I want everything. I want everyone gone. I'm going to remove the debts. So they're suggesting that, I don't know, that there could be the Glazer staying in with less of a voting power? I'm not sure. Again, let's keep an eye on that one, because I think more details are indeed going to come out over the next however many minutes. Be sure to smash the like. As I mentioned, we've got nearly 1,300 people watching, less than 250 likes. We can go higher. I'm sure we can go higher. We can keep going. We can keep going on this Friday night, nearly 10:30 p.m. British summertime. I'm involved for a late night, guys. I tell you, I'm doing this, and then I'm going to be live until about 3 o'clock this morning, covering the WWE draft. Yeah, draft night 1. I'm excited this evening. This is going to be a lot of fun as well. Paul Greaves says they want to see if either of them came close to their valuation, which they won't. To be honest, Sheikh Jassim is going to be the highest bid, and it's still considerably way off what the Glazers are looking for as well. I'm morbidly curious as to, well, I say morbidly, I want to know what they mean when they say the Sir Jim bid is more flexible than Sheikh Jassim's one, because to me, flexible means like bending over backwards so that, oh, well, Glazer, if you want to stay, if you really want to stay, then maybe we can work something out. Maybe I can give you money and you can also stay as well. Maybe we can do something like that. To me, the most flexible bid is the Qatar one, where it's clean, it's done, this is the bid, this is the money, that's it, right? That surely that would be what they're looking for. Well, not what they're looking for, but that's the easiest transaction to do. Again, I don't know. That's for interesting. DB Cooper says, so Sir Jim's offer is for control, so that other shit was BS. Well, I don't necessarily think that, because again, in that scenario that was put out there earlier this week, Sir Jim was still going to have majority and control of United. It was just going to be a case whereby the Glazers stuck around, but in a minority situation. So they couldn't really have any influence over, and this is what's even worse. They wouldn't have any influence over what the club does on the pitch, off the pitch, financially, what have you. But it'd even be worse than the current situation. If those reports earlier this week were true, that Sir Jim was going to buy out the majority of United and have the majority of control, but the Glazers were still going to be sticking around by having, significantly smaller shares in the club, they would just be there for leeching purposes. That is it. That is all they would be there for. Purely for, let's take money out, let's take money out. They'd have even less interest. And they don't have that much interest in the success of United anyway. It's been seen. But they'd have none, even less of that. It would all be, it's just a source of income. That's it, which it already is, but even worse. Even worse. And as I mentioned, it's pure hypocrisy from the first statement that was put out there by Ineos at the time. And again, this is if this is true, because we don't still have a ton of details about this bid that's gone in. But if that was true earlier this week, what happened to putting the Manchester back in Manchester United? What happened to having a fan-centric approach to ownership? Because that ain't very fan-centric. I don't think you could find a fan of United that would want to keep the Glazers around. That would be... I don't know about that. I saw Steph's in the chat as well, complimenting, I think, the most important thing, which is, may I just say that your eyebrows are looking wonderful tonight. I don't do anything to them. Yeah, this is just me. I'm a guy that doesn't even, I just use water. So that's not even, yeah. Look at that. Whenever I get my hair cut, and I get almost offended when they say to me, when you get a haircut and you go into one of those barbers and they go, trim your eyebrows. And I go, why? Why? What are you trying to say? And then when they sometimes go, flame your ear. And I go, what's wrong with that? I don't want that. Why would I want that? The last time I went in there, they started cracking my knuckles. I'm not even joking. I had a towel on my face, a hot towel on my face. And then I could feel my arms being stretched out. And I was thinking, what's going on here? And then they started going, boom. And my knuckles were going pop, 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 pop. I was thinking, what is going on? I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to use my hands going out. And it felt pretty good, to be fair. I'm not sure that really means anything, popping my knuckles. But yeah, it was just, I didn't have to pay any extra for it. That was free. That was it, so no problem. Austin Baker has been a member for 9 months. Appreciate 9 months of support. Austin says, "Let's go, everyone." But Glazers. But Owen, did you see the women's game? Wow, I did see the women's game. They scored a last-minute winner, I believe, and won 3-2. So they're still fighting on all fronts in the WSL. I know that our very own Queen Mean was at the game. There was a short she posted up. I think there probably will be a vlog of some sort or some kind of content probably coming tomorrow, I would think, regarding all that. So stay tuned if you want coverage of that from actually at the game. Mina can provide you with that. I know she was at the press conference yesterday as well, I believe it was. So Mina's been absolutely killing it when it comes to all things at Manchester United's women's side too. So they're in the FA Cup final too. They did what United did. They beat Brighton in the FA Cup semi-final. The men's team rather beat Brighton in the semi-final. They're in the final as well. So both teams going to Wembley. What a season for both. So tremendous, absolutely tremendous stuff. Let's see if we've got any more information regarding any of these bids that have gone in. Not really, to be honest, just both saying that both bids indeed are in. So if you are just joining us, the third and final bids from both Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani from the 9-2 Foundation, the Qatari bid is in. His is a world record bid to buy Manchester United in a bid worth over £5 billion. In addition to that, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos have also submitted their final bid to buy Manchester United, but we don't have a ton of details about it. The only thing we've really heard or read is that it's more flexible than Sheikh Jassim's bid. What they mean when it comes to flexibility, I'm not sure. Mike Keegan, we've got some more information from him, and he's really been all over, hasn't he? He's been all over this whole takeover process. He's actually put out his article. So let's get into that too. This is what I like about being live when all of this news is coming in. It's just constant, isn't it? It's constant, and you have to try and keep up with it in real time. So let's see what Mike Keegan is writing about when it comes to Manchester United, specifically the Qatari bid that indeed is in before the deadline had passed, which was about 30 minutes ago. So he has said that Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani lodged a final bid for more than £5 billion for Manchester United tonight, with the promise of significant additional funding for transfers and infrastructure. The offer, which landed in New York, which is the home of the Rain Group, of course, that's where the offices are based in New York, shortly before the 10 p.m. deadline, included what would be a world record figure to buy the Premier League giants. But in a significant and unprompted power play, strap in, guys, power play, unprompted, come on. But in a significant and unprompted power play, it also pledged further amounts of additional capital and a sum that would be spent on either redeveloping Old Trafford or building a new stadium, along with transforming United's training facility. Now that is something that I had speculated on earlier, wasn't it? I said that my feeling is my sources. I'm hearing from my sources. It was just guesswork, which I think, to be honest, this is a lot of it what it is constantly. But my feeling was at the time that whilst the offer of money to the Glazers might be north of £5 billion, I think the total package that he would have presented it as, or his representatives, his company would have presented it as, would have been significantly higher, i.e. saying, okay, here's £5 billion for you to buy the club from you and your siblings, to buy out all of the shareholders too. But actually, I'm going to be redeveloping or building a new stadium. That's costing me well over £1 billion. So let's make that's £6 billion already. I'm going to be transforming United's training facility. That's going to cost me £1 billion. We're into £7 billion. So my total package here, my total offer, not just to you, but my total package, including fees and everything, is around £7 billion. So maybe that's what they're looking for. I guess the disparity could come where, do the Glazers want $7 billion for themselves, or do they want a $7 billion package? That's the interesting thing too. But Mike Keegan does say the bid from the Qatari remained well short of the £6 billion offer, or £6 billion asking price that the club's owners, the Glazer family, are thought to be seeking. Sheikh Jassim wants 100% of the club, and his deal would buy out the Glazers and all other shareholders. The offer is improved from his previous bid, but he will not go anywhere near £6 billion and is determined to not grossly overpay, according to those with knowledge of the process. That is also what was reported earlier today, and that was what I was going to talk about. My sort of formats of what I was going to talk to you guys about kind of exploded before we went live, because the bids came in directly on 10. But it had been reported, the only things that had been really put out there today was that they weren't going to hit £6 billion. They weren't going to hit the asking price. Sheikh Jassim is determined and is putting his foot down and drawing a line in the sand by saying, I'm not going to overpay. It is not worth £6 billion. This offer that I'm giving you is more than generous enough, and I'm not going to do it. You know, obviously, they have the money. Everyone knows they have the money. Everyone knows that if they wanted to, they could give £6 billion. They could give even more. Frankly, they already are technically, because they're saying here's 5.5, and also we're committing like 2 or 3. So the overall package is nearly over. It's over 7. So of course we've got the money, but we want to do business the right way, and we want to be fair. We want to be fair to ourselves. Just because we've got it doesn't mean we should overspend. But the Glazers had been putting stuff out there, hadn't they? Last week, it came from Mark Ogden from ESPN, saying that the Glazers are sort of implying, look, we want $6 billion, but we think that's quite low, actually, because in the next couple of years, there's a lot of money coming into the Premier League. There's a lot of money coming into United. Look at where things are heading, particularly when it comes to television rights fees, which is really the driving revenue source for a lot of English clubs right now. The television money is monumental in comparison to any other country, any other league in the world. The Premier League, that's why all of these clubs absolutely dominate in terms of finances compared to any other club in the world. And this is why clubs in La Liga and clubs in Serie A and all around the world are complaining about the Premier League and getting frustrated because there's so much money involved in English football at the moment from the television rights perspective. And the Glazers are suggesting that the Premier League, they're currently in negotiations for another contract with the broadcasters, Sky Sports, BT, etc., Amazon Prime. But they think this could be the last contract when it comes to television rights negotiations. And they think after this next contract is done, that's when the Premier League could go to a direct-to-consumer model, which would be moving the Premier League to a streaming service or creating their own streaming service where everyone around the world could pay a certain amount of money per month and have access to every Premier League game. If that is the case, they take out all of that money that they need to be paid to intermediaries, or the chunks of money that all of these broadcasters take, and they keep it all for themselves. And the feeling is, from the Glazer perspective, at least what the article was saying, is that that's going to make these already incredibly wealthy teams even wealthier. So they were sort of, I guess, threatening or putting over the ultimatum that, hey, we could stick around, and in a couple of years' time, if we wanted to sell United again, we could sell it for 10 billion, 12 billion. It could be even more. But to counteract that, the other people that are in this bidding process are actually saying, well, we don't believe that's actually true because you can't afford to stay. The reason you're exploring strategic alternatives right now is because you don't have any money and the club needs money. You just had a January transfer window where you had to sign Wout Weghorst and Sabitzer on an emergency loan because the club doesn't have any cash. The stadium's leaking. The training ground hasn't been upgraded in forever. Cristiano Ronaldo came back and he said, it's all the same. You haven't won a league title in a decade and you've fallen behind. You've got your noisy neighbors across the city dominating the Premier League, but also dominating in terms of adding more seats to their already empty stadium, in terms of the facilities they've got there. They've got an indoor arena. They've got the state-of-the-art training ground as well. Before, Old Trafford and United's training ground used to be a beacon of innovation and a beacon of having the best facilities arguably in the world. We didn't even have the best facilities in Manchester anymore. And you can't afford to invest in them, Mr. Glazer. So that's what they're suggesting. They're saying you can say all you want about how valuable this is going to be in a couple of years' time. You haven't taken dividends for the last 2 times you could have taken them. It's been rejected because there's no money left. So don't try and bullshit us with saying, well, maybe we'll stick around, because you can't. So that's all of this back and forth. That's all of this back and forth at the moment as well. As Paul says, piss overflowing the toilets. I've probably ranted on that, but I could have put it much more succinctly, like Paul did there. Imagine they said that in like the negotiation. Well, we think, in a couple of years' time, the Premier League's going to adopt a direct-to-consumer approach, and there's going to be streaming services, and the value is going to exponentially increase, and certainly the stockholders are going to be really compensated well. And they won't stop there. Piss overflowing toilets. And they went, well, about that asking price. about that asking price. Oh, I'm not sure about that as well. Ash has been a member for 9 months. Appreciate the support from Ash. Says Mbappe to Old Trafford. Here we go. The thing is, Ash, we can't even talk, can we, about the summer plans really. We know in a general sense who we would like, or positions rather, that we would like for the summer, but we really still don't know what the plans are going to be. It's been reported today that Ten Hag is carrying on as per usual and looking at people he would want for the summer. But in terms of genuinely how much money is available, we don't know. Plus, even if it was Sheikh Jassim and that takeover did happen, we're still in a position from an FFP perspective where we can't go crazy in the summer because the financials are as bad as they are. It might have to be like the season after. So this could be, even if we were taken over by the Qataris, it might be a case of next season we really reap the benefits of that. I'm not sure. So again, that's very interesting too. But if you are just joining us, just to recap once again, the bids indeed are in from both Sheikh Jassim and also from Sir Jim Ratcliffe from Ineos. Flex has just tweeted. He said, bids in now, praying the Glazers go completely. Will just over 5 billion be enough? That is a good question for the poll. Let me put that in the chat. I'm going to put a poll in the chat. Here we go. That says, will 5 billion be enough? Because I have my reservations too. Will 5 billion pounds, that is, 5 billion be enough? Polls in the chat, yes or no. Will 5 billion pounds be enough from Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani from his 92 Foundation? Let me know your votes in the chat. Also, we've got nearly 1,500 people watching. Yes, nearly 1,500 people watching at 20 to 11 or 10:40 British summertime over here in the UK. So if you haven't already, click the like button. We are 125 likes away from 500. I believe, if you believe, I believe we can get to 500. I know we can, and we don't need Mr. Phelan as well. Certainly we don't. What else are you guys saying here? A couple of super chats here. DJG says, ever wondered if Sir Jim Ratcliffe would buy United and sell for double? I don't think, in fairness, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's in this race for the sake of making a profit. I think that... And the Sir Jim Ratcliffe story has been really interesting, hasn't it? You think of the journey that he's got, and in terms of the demand for him coming in from the United fans, how much that's varied. Because I remember vividly when he came out, and this was even prior to the Glazers exploring strategic alternatives. This was right around the time of the Liverpool game earlier this season in the summer. And there was that thing, I think it was from the Times, I think it was. And basically from a spokesperson from Ineos, he said that, of course, I'd be interested in buying United and investing with a stake of acquiring a majority share and this, that, and the other. But it's not for sale. So what can I do? And at the time we were going, oh, my goodness me, someone's going to do it. There was that other guy, I forget his name as well, that was essentially trying to do a bat signal for Sir Jim, saying, I don't actually have money. I don't actually have a consortium, even though he said he did. I have a consortium. Was it Knighton? That was his name, I think it was. The Dark Knighton was coming out and saying, no, it's just about getting Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Sir Jim, I'm calling on you. Come on, Sir Jim. And everyone was like, what? This guy, Michael Knighton, yeah, the Dark Knighton, was coming out trying to get Sir Jim Ratcliffe to invest. And then when all that happened, we were like, finally, someone's going to do it. Finally, someone's going to do it. And then when the Glazers put out that statement, which was in December, saying that they were exploring strategic alternatives, we were like, it's happening. Finally, it's happening. And we know there's someone that actually wants to buy and is going to put money into the club to buy. And at the time, Sir Jim Ratcliffe was like, great. And he was the preferred option because, frankly, he was the only option. But then when other options come on the table, and as you sort of look under the hood or the bonnet, depending where you're from, you kind of look at the proposed deal maybe from Ineos and go, if that was the only offer, right? If that was the only one and it was just, he would have control and, the Qatar one didn't exist, there would be unity. Of course there would be. It'd be like, it's not ideal, but it's the Glazers not being in control. We'll take that. We'll take that situation. But now there are other options. There are other offers. And it's funny how such a uniting issue of wanting the Glazers out can be so divisive at the same time as well, because people, like with anything, have so many different opinions on who they would prefer and who they would like as well. Red Baron says, a fat cat is never satisfied, referring to the Glazers. And that is my concern. That is my concern too. I mean, the poll is in the chat, and already for less than 5 minutes, we've already had 321 votes already. And the question was, will £5 billion be enough? That was something that Flex asked in his tweet. Will £5 billion be enough? And essentially that is the money. Well, it's £5 billion plus, really, isn't it? It's north of 5 billion. We don't know how much specifically, but it's over £5 billion. Will that be enough to for the Glazers to accept the offer from Sheikh Jassim and I suppose Sir Jim Ratcliffe? We don't know, again, the actual monetary amount that Sir Jim or Ineos have put in, but 63% of you already saying yes. My response to that would be, don't underestimate the greed of the Glazers. Okay, this is a bunch of people. This is a family through greed. Yeah, through greed and monetary gain and desire and lust for that almighty dollar has reduced the greatest and biggest club in football into a team that is all about cash and all about money. And for a team and an organization that's all about cash and money, we don't have any anymore, right? So that is the levels. We're talking extraordinary levels of greed and lust for cash. So I think it's going to be really interesting, that, because in a take it or leave it scenario, this is my final offer. Over £5 billion to you, a total package of, let's say, 7 in terms of investment in the club, investment in the stadium. Take it or leave it. Would they take it? I wouldn't even be shocked. Wouldn't even be shocked if they said, look, your total package is worth 7. Forget the stadium. Forget the training ground. Forget the investment and all that kind of stuff. But just give us all that money, okay? That's what we're looking for. You know, it's like when you're playing Football Manager and you put in a bid and you go, after 50 appearances, you can get 10 million. They go, no, we want it up front. That's what we want. My concern is that, again, I don't think we can underestimate just the levels of greed that we're talking about here. Yeah, it's next level of greed, isn't it? So I don't know. I really don't. But what is interesting too, of course, is that I suppose this is maybe where we're being somewhat naive here as well. What we could be looking at is a situation whereby, actually, think about it this way: if so, that the highest bid, let's say the highest bid, and the preferred bid is Sheikh Jassim's Qatar's bid from the 9-2 Foundation. They could then be the preferred bidder. That doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the final amount. If then the 9-2 Foundation enters this period of exclusivity with the Rain Group, with the Glazers, they could negotiate up. They could negotiate higher. And maybe that's something we need to consider too, is that just because this final bid is over £5 billion doesn't necessarily mean that is what the final amount is going to be. They could say, right, we're happy with you. We're picking you as our preferred bidder, and we want to do this deal with you, but we still think there's some things we want to figure out. There's still some more money we want to put in there. There's still some, just a little bit more. Let's go for a light £6 billion. That's what we're really looking for. And that might be what they do now. They could be selected as the preferred bidder in the coming days, but that doesn't mean, again, that this is getting done. That this is getting done to even still quickly. We could still be quite protracted as well. Let's see if we've got any more updates as well on social media from other people reporting on this. So as I mentioned, we spoke about this in Mike Keegan's recent article that Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani lodged a final bid of more than £5 billion for Manchester United tonight, with the promise of significant additional funding for transfers and infrastructure. This is quite an interesting one that's kind of just off on the side here. This is coming in from the from Mail Sport, the Daily Mail, also as well. That Harry Maguire, the Manchester United captain, is growing increasingly fearful he may have to leave Manchester United this summer due to lack of faith shown in him by Erik ten Hag. I would say you just realizing that now, Harry, because mate, I don't think legitimately maybe that's not true. I was going to say maybe Harry Maguire doesn't play for the rest of the season. I think he probably will, but I don't think he'll play Sunday against Aston Villa. Maybe because, again, he was injured. He wasn't in the squad yesterday because apparently he had an injury in training. But that back four, that's the back four I want for the rest of the season. I didn't look at that result yesterday, that capitulation, and say that was the back four's fault. That back four that started anyway. I thought Shaw and Lindelof did well at centre-back. I thought they were really unfortunate in the second half because they were exposed because the midfield disappeared. When Terrell Malacia came on for Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Dalot went to right back and Malacia went to left back, I thought Malacia was very poor when he came on. So for me, in terms of the options we have available for the rest of the season, it's Dalot at left back, it's Lindelof, it's Shaw, and it's Wan-Bissaka at right back. So Harry Maguire should be fearful. You know, the lack of faith has been shown in him by Ten Hag all season. And even when he has put faith in him, i.e. playing him in a crucial Europa League quarter-final second leg in Seville against Sevilla, he was awful. In games this season, he has been poor. And he continues to put his foot in his mouth every single time he does an interview on international duty, it must be said as well. I don't have to prove myself. When he said, I don't have to prove myself, and then Ten Hag did a press conference a couple of weeks later saying you have to prove yourself every single game, not even in reference to Harry Maguire, I said there's a disconnect there. There is a disconnect between that. And yeah, you go in the summer. Of course you go in the summer. It's not working out, Harry. Like, it's not working out. And sometimes, legitimately, I've said this before this season too, I sometimes feel bad for him because you watch him play in that United side, he just can't do what the manager wants him to do. A couple of times when I've seen him play and we haven't even lost the game, I mean, sometimes we haven't even conceded, but there have been moments where his recovery pace just isn't there. His mobility just isn't there. And it's better for his career. Honestly, it's better. If I was an advisor of Harry Maguire, I would say at the moment, it's best for your career that you leave because your spot's gone. Like, Harry Maguire is never going to be a starting centre-back at Manchester United again. He is never going to be the first or second choice centre-back ever again. Rafael Varane and Alessandro Martinez are so clear of him, especially with what Ten Hag wants from his centre-backs, but just in general, they are so clear of him. So even from that perspective, if I was his advisor, I'd say, look, you are not going to play every single game. They're playing more. The manager likes them. You know, he's older, Maguire. Go to another club. The problem is there's no international threat really hanging over his head. Gareth Southgate's going to play him regardless. But still, fearful. I'm fearing I might have to leave United this summer. Penny might have just dropped, mate. Because, yeah, I think you might have, to be honest. You know, also as well, think of Luke Shaw's trajectory this season as well, right? Luke Shaw's trajectory, Luke Shaw's even got clear of Harry Maguire this season. A left back has been showing better performances at centre back than the Manchester United captain. It's like it's done for Harry Maguire. You know, no room for sentiment. And I think, to be honest, Ten Hag has managed the Maguire situation excellently. I never thought it was feasible that he'd leave last summer, but Ten Hag's kind of played it very well. He's gradually removed him from the team this season. He didn't upset or rock the apple cart too much in terms of keeping him on as the club captain, but we all know who the real captain is at United at the moment. It's Bruno Fernandes, and yeah, I think Maguire's tenure at United is done. Honestly, at the summer, the only question would be is how much do we get for him? Honestly, and I think that what did we pay? 80. We'd be very lucky to get half. I think very lucky to get half for Harry Maguire. And I don't particularly care how much it would be. If Harry Maguire gets sold for 15 million, okay. Like, the loss is going to be a loss. And anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's just Danny with the super chat here. Says, sorry, late to the party. Don't worry about being late. People can run on their own schedules. You can always reverse back or rewind back and see from the beginning. If you are just joining us again, third and final round bids have gone in from Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani. Over £5 billion from him. Sheikh Jassim, we don't really have a monetary amount. All that we know is that it's flexible at the moment. But he says £5 is $6.2. Well, there you go. I guess, in terms of the overall bid. Right, I gotcha. Let's see how many likes we're on. Oh, my goodness me. Wow. We currently have over 1,500 people watching. over 1,500. We are 3 likes away from 500. 3. Now, some would say, well, it's easy. You're going to hit 500 there. We can do more. We can do more. We can go bigger. We can do better. I think 750. Heck, it's Friday. Yeah, guys, let your hair down. You know, I was trying to think of a song that involves Friday, and there probably quite are a few, but not any I would care to admit that I actually know on the that I'm live. So I'm not going to go down that route. But let's go for 1,000. Yeah, let's go for 1,000. Dara with the super chat as well says, if they sell, money received won't sit in a bank account. They reinvest it. Is there really a better investment than Manchester United? Can't see them selling. Which there is obviously still. I'm with you, Dara. There is still some trepidation from myself, certainly, of going. I mean, because whenever they say, you know, these journalists, whenever Carve says it's a world record amount, a world record fee for a sporting franchise, I kind of shrug when I say that, because I go, they don't care. they that's the baseline for them. They want more money than has ever been paid for a sporting franchise, but at the same time, they still want that world record to be never beat. That it was always going to be a world record, because if it wasn't, I mean, this is Manchester United. This is one of, if not the biggest sporting franchise or sporting entity in the world. So of course they would want a world record amount. But again, they want a world record amount that's never going to be beaten. The irony is, of all the records that Manchester United should be chasing, right, in terms of footballing achievements, the only records that the Glazers care about are financial ones. Who's got the largest sponsorship ever for a kit? Oh, we want that to be United. Who's got the largest amount ever paid for a football club? We want that to be United. You know, who's got the biggest amount of profit in terms of buying a football club and then selling it years later and making a load of money off of it? Even though we bought it with money that wasn't actually our money, it was loan money, and then it was handed down to us by our father. You know, who won that? Oh, that was us. That's the only records they truly care about. They don't care about any kind of footballing records. You know, the record amount of Premier Leagues be down, 3 Premier League titles in a row, trebles that we're worried about losing this season. I mean, they could care less about that. But the financial records in terms of world record fees, that's the really one that they care about. Chris says, Woodward will get 19 million. Now, this is accurate indeed. This was a story, I think it was Laurie Whitwell that put it out there today, saying that because of the shares that Ed Woodward still has in Manchester United, if I guess any takeover, but particularly the one from Sheikh Jassim, if that one was to be successful and Sheikh Jassim was to buy out every shareholder, Ed Woodward would make a ridiculous amount of money because he has significant shares in Manchester United, which again, it's so annoying, isn't it? It's so frustrating and that's the kind of devil that we're almost willing to live with, isn't it? Is that you're not comfortable that the Glazers are making, I think the best way to describe it is a shit ton of money out of this entire process, as I mentioned. But purchased the club on leveraged debt. The way they've purchased the club, I don't think is even legal anymore. And yet they profit off this in the tune of like over 5 billion quid. That's not okay, and that's not acceptable, but whatever, as long as they go, it's kind of like that, isn't it? Whatever, you know, this is the price to pay when you're dealing with the devil almost. But that's why I just I cannot live with the possibility of the Sir Jim thing where the Glazers could be sticking around even in a minority role. It's unacceptable is what Antonio Conte would be. That is just, the leech would still be leeching. Imagine paying someone off to keep giving them money over time. I would just, that's like going to the doctors and having, you know, some kind of virus. And they say, oh, this will fix you. And you go, is the virus gone then? They go, no, but you just kind of live with it. You go, well, no, I want the virus gone. No, I want to be well again. I want to be whole. I want to be healthy. I don't want to live with this anymore. That's honestly, if you think about it too much, that will legitimately drive you crazy. Ethan with the super chat says, Maguire and the Glazers can get the F out. Vacation Pappy's been a member for 10 months. Appreciate 10 months of support. Says, no way Maguire is now realizing he is out of the plans. Has to be a comment a journalist has held on since Arsenal at home. We all knew then, lol. Well, yeah, well, but you never know. I mean, you say that. You say that no way Maguire's probably just figured this out now. This is the same Maguire that said in an interview that he doesn't need to prove himself. So anything's possible. And Red Baron says with a super chat, bankers fail upwards. Look at every financial crash in history. Indeed. We've got some more news from James Ducker, this time from the Telegraph. He is putting out some more information regarding what's going on this evening. So the Glazer family will decide whether to sell Manchester United over the coming days in what could be a watershed moment for Britain's biggest club after final takeover bids were submitted on Friday night, which, again, we kind of knew that now the bids are in. It's like, when is Eurovision? Is it? It's not this weekend, is it? Either way, the songs have all been sung, yeah? Now we enter the process where the judges are going to decide. The people are going to, well, there's no vote involved in this. Well, I guess the siblings are voting. But I'm not sure where I'm going with this analogy, honestly. Eurovision settings, the songs have been sung. Now we're waiting. We're waiting for the judges' results. That's what we're talking about now. The Glazer family will decide in the next couple of days if they want to sell. Now, obviously, this entire process is because they're going to get rid of a certain amount of United. We just don't know how much just yet. We just know that they're going to be either getting rid of a partial amount of it, a majority of it, or all of it. If it's either Sheikh Jassim, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, or these minority people. So as we said previously, this saga is not over yet. But as Doctor Strange said at one point in Infinity War, before he dusted away, we're in the end game now. Yeah. And then he appeared, 5 years later, put up his sort of finger, and Tony Stark died. I hope that doesn't happen, when it comes to the takeover stuff. And I hope we don't have to battle Thanos, but that's just what Doctor Strange said at the time too. James Ducker has also said, if their offer is accepted, sources have suggested that the Qataris would need at least a month to complete the buyout of the 69% stake held by the Glazers, but 6 weeks or more to acquire the remaining 31% stake in United too. So, again, this is what I was saying about we're so close now to the end of the season. We're so close to the transfer window that the knock-on effect is already going to be there, irrespective of whether it's the Qataris, whether it's Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, whether it's a minority investment. The knock-on effect is going to be there. The uncertainty, even if over this bank holiday weekend and next week we get some news that the Glazers have gone, you know what? Yep, Qatari in, Sheikh Jassim, deal. And they shake on it. We're like, yes, they've done it. They've done it. This ain't being done overnight. Yes, the final offers are in. But according to James Ducker from the Telegraph, it's going to take a month to complete the 69% buyout from the Glazers. And then after that, it will take 6 weeks or more to acquire the remaining 31% stake, because that all has to be agreed upon, price per share and all that kind of stuff. So we're still looking at what? A month plus 6 weeks. So 2 and a bit months. We'd be in May. So May, June, July. If the Qatar bid was accepted, best case scenario, maybe it's completed by mid-July, early August. It's getting pretty tight when it comes to the summer transfer window, right? And how does that even work then? If the case of, we know that these guys are going to buy the club, but they're not totally in control of the club yet, does then just no money get made available? How would it work for the summer transfer window? Do they just go, well, the money's coming in, but we don't, not yet. That's, again, but to be honest, with all of that, if that means the Glazers are gone, to me, that's a necessary evil. I've said before, when people say, oh, what would it take for the Glazers to leave? If it meant that Man United were like fighting off relegation, but the Glazers then decided that enough was enough and they left, would you take that? I've always said, yeah, I would take that. I don't care what it takes as long as they're gone. So if that does mean, shit, we can't, in the summer, we don't really buy anyone till August, that's unfortunate. And it's it's one more FU from the Glazers, isn't it? But okay, whatever. We've taken so many L's from them at the moment. What's another one? Because that will mean that we're finally in the place where we can come back and bounce back. That would be the next step. But again, just because these bids are in today, Friday, the 28th of April, if the takeover was to happen from the Qatari point of view, I don't know the timeline for Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, if that one was to go through. I don't know if that would be any quicker or slower. But for any party, we're looking at realistically it being done by mid-July, early August. And that's well into the transfer window. If you thought people were going crazy last year with how slow things were taken in the transfer window, my oh my, this summer could be a little bit different too. So yes, that's very interesting as well. Just to double check if we're caught up to date with that. James Ducker also said, if successful financial sources have indicated Qataris wouldn't need, as I mentioned, at least a month. Yeah, we spoke about that. And I think we're up to date with that. But as I mentioned, more news continues to come in regarding it. But I mean, how would you feel about that? If it's a case of, let's say, from the Qatar point of view, let's say that the Glazers do say to them, "Yep, we're happy with that offer," or that's the offer that we've come to a fair price or a fair negotiation. Let's go with it. Do you particularly care that it would take until maybe mid-July, early August to get everything, the I's dotted and the T's crossed? I mean, but the fact that you're knowing that they're going to go, is it like, okay, fine, the ball's rolling, we're in the right direction? Do you particularly care, or does that still bother you? You know, a lasting legacy of them screwing us over for another transfer window. What do you think about that? We'll get some of your comments up on the screen as well. Tavislol, one of our mods and long-time members, says, don't forget about the protest this Sunday. I believe there is a protest at Old Trafford. If you are attending the game, I think there's information online. I believe there's information online about that, so you can attend that if you wish as well. If you can't, I'm sure you can post messages on social media and get your voice heard. Of course, you don't necessarily have to go to the game to get your voice heard nowadays. So that's positive as well. How many likes are we on? We're still at nearly 1,500 people watching live, which is incredible. I mean, it's 11:05 here on a Friday night, and we've got nearly 1,500 people watching. So appreciate everyone tuning in this evening. We're currently at 640 likes. You know what that means? We are 110 likes away from 750. And we're making good progress this evening, in the same way that hopefully we're making good progress in getting the Glazers out. We're making good progress on the likes. I feel like we can get to 750 on the road, possibly to 1,000. I mean, we always talk about this a lot when it comes to polls and all that kind of stuff in the chat. The poll was in the chat. It was put in there around nearly half an hour ago, 25 minutes ago. As of right now, it's got 986 votes. Now, just for comparison, I'm just pointing it out. For comparison, there's 661 likes and nearly 990 votes, nearly 1,000 votes. Some would say, why can't there be 1,000 likes? There's 1,000 votes. There's over 1,000 votes now in the poll. Why can't there? I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible at this point. We're living in the reality where the Glazers could be leaving. But talking of that poll, though, as I mentioned, because we've got quite a good sample size there now, actually. The question was, would £5 billion be enough for the Glazers to sell? That was the question that Flex had put on Twitter. And the majority of you think yes. 64% of you say that you think that £5 billion would be enough for the Glazers to sell. Only 36% of you say no, you don't think it will be enough, which is interesting. I still have my reservations. I still think my prediction of where things will be going with this is that I think the Qatari bid could be the preferred bidder for now. But my feeling is that that might not be the final amount that they decide to accept. I feel like there might be some negotiation that they might be trying to do. They're going to try and squeeze every last cent and dollar or penny or pound out of this deal. And I think, again, and that makes it really interesting too, because if we do enter now a period of exclusivity, that is, let's say, a couple of weeks. If we're looking at the timeline of taking 4 months to purchase the Glazer, 4 weeks rather, to purchase the Glazer's majority shareholding, then a further 6 weeks to purchase the remainder of the shares from all of the other minority shareholders, we could get really close to a situation whereby the deal actually is completed, everything is done by like the end of August. And again, what does that mean for the summer transfer window? I would think my prediction would be that it would just be business as usual for the summer transfer window, which is what it's always been at United, because the Glazers don't put any money in. The club is self-sustaining, and any transfer budget is what is generated by the club. So hopefully it wouldn't be a situation whereby there isn't money to spend because of this takeover stuff. It would be, well, business as usual. The money's there because all that stuff's going on in the background. But as closer as it gets to the tie, I don't know. I'm nervous. I just, when you're so close to something, you're so close to achieving something, but there is just this feeling in the pit of your stomach or the back of your head that it all could just switch away, because I don't trust. I don't trust. Well, the Glazers are going to do the right thing by the fans, certainly, again, which is what I was saying earlier on. This idea that this Sheikh Jassim's offer is the best offer for the fans. They could care less about what the best offer is for the fans. As far as, again, the Sir Jim Ratcliffe Ineos bid, there's just been really no news about the finer details of it, really, at the moment. Again, it's still nearly 11 here, and the only thing we know from Sir Jim Ratcliffe is that the bid is in and it's flexible. We don't actually know financial amounts. We don't know, how many billion pounds it is. We don't know any of that, so I can't even really say how likely or unlikely that is. The only information we really have is from the Qatari bid, and that's kind of it at the moment. We are on, in terms of likes, we're at 712. So if I do my maths quickly, that is 38 away from 750. Took me a second, but I think 38 we can get there as well. Here we go, actually. Steph is in the chat. She says, how can I be a mod? Just like this. Ta-da. Look at that. I have the power. I have the power. Thou hast been modded, as Josh would say, certainly. But there you go. So I think that's the latest news, to be honest, guys. I think we've covered that this evening. If there is any more information regarding Sir Jim's bid that we get, I'm sure we'll cover that in the morning. But as of right now, if you are just joining us once again, the third and final bids from the biggest bidders have indeed been submitted. The deadline for it was 10 p.m. British summertime over here in the UK this evening. Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani's bid has gone in. It's north of £5 billion for everything, for Manchester United, for the Glazers' majority share, for the minority shareholders. It's going to wipe all debt, and it also includes additional details about capital that's to be invested in the stadium, in the training ground, etc. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos's bid is also in. Finer details about that, we just don't know. We don't know right now. Of course, if we get any more information about that, we'll probably let you know in a video in the morning or something like that. Also tomorrow, expect a preview. That's going to be coming. There is the small matter of a game this weekend. Manchester United versus Aston Villa in that race for the top four. Taking place Sunday, 2 p.m. kickoff at Old Trafford. So a preview will be dropping tomorrow to discuss how we feel that one's going to be going. And then, of course, Sunday, it's match day. So we're going to have match view settings, fan view settings, and all of the reaction to that. And plus, as I mentioned, whilst this takeover stuff is going on in the background, that's going to be, we're going to be covering it all. So a really busy and crucial time, you feel like, don't you, in Manchester United history. Anyway, guys, look, I'm sure I'll speak to you again very, very soon, because this takeover stuff is not going away anytime soon. But have a great Friday, depending where you are in the world. If you're over here in the UK, or have a great Friday evening. If you're around the world, it might even be Saturday at this point. It might be Friday afternoon, or whatever it may be. So have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And I'll speak to you again very soon. And here's hoping this is the beginning of the end for the Glazers. Peace.